So this is the Redmi 8. It's been around for more than a year now, and of course, prices have dropped because this is a Xiaomi device and not a Samsung or an iPhone, which normally don't drop prices that much. And another thing, even though the price has gone down for this phone now, it isn't so old yet. It was released back in October 2019, and if you're buying a used model, it's actually not that bad. This one came out a year before the Redmi 9, so as you can see, it shares some design language right here. The camera module placement is similar, the sides of the phone are alike, the front is almost identical apart from the branding and the smaller size. Only thing that I'm not much of a fan of for this design is that this has a glossy back, which of course is going to collect a lot of fingerprints, and my favorite part of the design is the camera module. It's only a dual camera one, but it's alright. It has a headphone jack, a USB Type-C port, a dedicated micro SD card slot for expandable storage, a fingerprint scanner that's actually better than I expected, an IR blaster which I always love to see on a smartphone, and for some reason, this speaker actually sounds better than the one on my Redmi 9. It is on the chunkier side once again at 9.4mm, so that's noticeably thicker than the 9, but that makes way for a big battery, which we'll talk about later. And of course, like newer models where Xiaomi does intentional cuts for better things, this phone has a plastic frame as well as a plastic back, which is just fine, but I guess it's nice because it doesn't really flex at all or creak when you try to bend it like most phones at this price, or maybe even some that are more expensive. Let's talk about the price. When this phone came out more than a year ago, it had a launch price of around $140 to $150, which was already great, but in 2021, you can get one of these for only around like $8 like my dad did, and that is just amazing. And there's the 4GB RAM 64GB version, which I like to call as the bottom line of recommended specs nowadays, so I'm sure that you won't have much issues with the performance and the storage for this phone. It has a Qualcomm Snapdragon 439, which definitely isn't so great now, but I would say that it's fine for most people. You can pretty much play most games here like Call of Duty Mobile and Asphalt 9 without much lag, and your day-to-day tasks won't really take a hit as well. And for the battery, once again, this is another example at why some budget phones like this and the Redmi 9 get better battery life than flagships. So basically, this phone has a 5000 mAh battery, which is great, and because this isn't really like a V10 engine that's drinking a lot of gas, you can easily get more than 7 hours of battery here, or maybe even more than that. And to top that off, this phone also supports up to 18W fast charging, which is definitely a nice bonus. The display is also pretty decent. It's a 6.22-inch IPS LCD display, and it is only 720p though, but I guess that's a thing that you'll sacrifice for a better battery and performance if you're asking me. It gets bright enough for outdoor usage, and it's Gorilla Glass 5, so at least you have some good resistance and protection there. The detail won't be the sharpest obviously, but at least the color and contrast are good, and you can't really complain about the screen. Definitely good enough for most people. For the software experience, it's also going to be smooth as this is rocking MIUI 12 and Android 10. Remember that this phone is more than a year old now, but it's still getting updates, which is good. Multitasking is great. You have some neat features here like the split screen, the video toolbox, game turbo, floating windows, and more. You have the smooth gesture controls, which I hope are getting an update, but it's good right now, and I'm sure that they're only going to get better in the future. And now let's look at this camera setup. As I said earlier, this is only a dual camera setup at the back, which isn't really so great in 2021, but this isn't really as bad as you'd probably think. The main camera is a 12 megapixel sensor at f1.8, and you have a 2 megapixel depth sensor for portrait shots, which is an okay bonus for this phone. It takes good enough photos. Obviously it's not even close to maybe the Pixel 4a or the iPhone SE, but I'd say that it's just alright. You have good enough detail, color is good too, although sometimes it likes to oversaturate and over sharpen things. Dynamic range is okay, and overall it's a good setup at the back. For the front camera, it's an 8 megapixel f2.0 sensor, and it gets the job done too, and you can definitely take some good portrait shots if you give it enough light. So that's the Redmi 8. It's a year-old phone, but it's still good in 2021, and most importantly, you can get one of these used for a very low price at around $80, and that's for the 4GB 64 variant as well, which is great. The battery is amazing, the performance is good, the build is good, the display is decent, and the cameras are alright as well. Anyway, that's it. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 300 subscribers on this channel. Stay blue, my friends. Goodbye.